Virtualize everything. Tonight's presentation is going to be short, traditional my style, but I wanted to talk to you real quick about a problem I experienced and how I worked around it. This workaround worked for me. It might not be the best way. I didn't even really research why it was happening. I kind of used a little bit of intuition and guess and check. So with that, let's look at what I'm doing. I've created a LXC container called backup. Inside of that LXC container, I created a Samba share. In that Samba share, I then mounted it to my Proxmox system here under Data Center and Store by clicking Add, SMB, and filling out the credentials. Then I checked over here to allow it to store backup files. So with that, it's set up and configured as a drive on my server where I'm able to store some stuff. Then I went over to my second server. This one I call the R710 server, and it's the one I've been using for the last few months as a demo server. Back to Data Center, and again hit Add, selected SMB, filled out the credentials for the share, and also selected backup files. That gave me a drive like so here. Stores backup files and VM disk images. Really doesn't need to store VM disk images. I'm not using it for that, but I could. So once we're there, then we're able to go to a system, any LXC or VM that we have, and select backup, then go up here to backup and select that drive. When we click backup, that'll start a backup moving to this disk, which is an SMB Samba share. As you can see, I have a few in here that I've done. So as I started moving some of the larger ones here, like storage, I found that this mount would actually fail and demount itself from the system. So when I came up here, selected it, and looked at summary, and then I started another backup. What I found was memory would scoot all the way up, and then it would fill the swap file up, and then that's when it would crash. So the first thing I did is go in, give it more CPU power and more memory, thinking that, well, maybe I can just push through it. It's a pretty underpowered server. As you can see, we're using a first gen APU here to run this system. It's a higher quality APU from that generation, but it's still not fairly powerful for today's standards. But it does run Proxmox quite well, especially just when you're running small containers for different household tasks. I have my VPN server, my ad blocking DNS server, and some light backup duties, and a Nextcloud that I use for doing backups. Is all that's going to be running on this machine for a little bit, as we actually play with some IMMO on the R710. I didn't want my household functions going down as I start up and slow down the system, so that's why we're doing this. But back to our video. So then I restarted it. I watched everything go up and it crashed. So after that, I knew that really system resources weren't my problem. It was the rate at which the container was actually ingesting information. So I came in here and went to network, and then I selected this network connection, pressed edit, and I began rate limiting. I first tried 100 megabytes per second, and I still found I had the problem, but it took much longer for it to happen. So I dropped it to 50, and now we've actually successfully done one large scale backup, and we have another one running right now. If you can see, the system's fairly within reason. I have a container restore that's running off that container right now, as well as this backup here that's pushing over as we speak. Now, of course, we're rate limited, so things are going to slow down quite a bit. But in some scenarios, especially doing backups, it's just better to plug along at them and get it done. Where I am changing servers, I would like to finish this project quicker, but this is working. I could have used a USB drive to do this, I know that. But again, I wanted to try my network. So, I hope if you're having problems with some of your backups failing, or different Samba shares failing on you with Proxmox, you might have found this useful. I know it's not the most informative video, and it's definitely not the most researched, but it is how I fixed the problem. Maybe you have a better idea about how to fix the problem or what's going on, and go ahead and drop that in the comments section below. I'd love to read them and learn more, and I'm sure my viewers would too. After all, we're here to teach and learn. Have a great night.